All right, we've had him a few times before on ABT Lockdown Live, and he's Australia's favourite Bassmaster Elite Series pro. Finally, he's doing an interview where he hasn't got their big bloody blue trophy in the background. Carl Jocumsen, welcome to chatting to our guys on 7 o'clock on a weeknight this time.
Yeah, Sunday night for us here. But yeah, always good to catch up, mate. I look forward to it.
Now, mate, we really enjoyed the fact that the Bassmaster Elites are back on telly now. The coverage is better and better than ever before. You know, you can watch it on ESPN in Australia on your TVs, which is cool. We all love watching Bassmaster live, the live mix, and we love the days where Carl Jocumsen's got a camera on. But this tournament, which was going to be your one, so confident going into this one, this is a great example of how this sport wheels can just fall off. Give us a bit of a brief insight about your levels of frustration for the Lake Champlain event.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to explain. About as bad as it can get, you know, for what I do and the energy and effort and everything that we have to put into this sport. You do it all for that opportunity, that chance, that, you know, that moment right there, that week. It all comes down the last 10 years, maybe the last 20 years of all the things I've learned. And then everything lines up to where you're on a lake that you've put months and months of time in. You've driven days and days and days, 24-hour, 36-hour drives, got there. I've gone up and down that lake hundreds and hundreds of times. And now it works out to where the fish are off the bank, that I'm able to drop on them. I'm finding them on the graph. They're on the boulders. I'm using side imaging, 360, you know, the most finesse techniques with 6-pound fluorocarbon, lining everything up. And then for that to be the result is just, it's very, very hard to explain. I don't mind when you miss it, when you miss the boat, and you're just so far off that, like, you were like, it's a big learning curve. You're like, okay, wow, I know, I need to know so much more about that lake. But when you are on the winning fish, doing the exact right thing, and at one stage beside the winner, and I was working with Brandon, we had him dialed in, and then basically I'm just not getting the bites. And I've looked into it and talked with Brandon and seen, you know, what the different little things were. And, you know, at the first couple of days, it's just like so frustrated. You just don't even want to talk about it. You're so exhausted. It just takes a little bit of time to, like, get your energy back. And then you start to think clear and be like, man, what just happened? Because it happens in a blur, and it sucks. There's almost nothing worse than me and for me. And because it's what I put everything into it, and this is what I live to do. And when I don't see progression and all those things that I've learned, and then it doesn't pay off, to me, it's very frustrating. I'm like, I don't know how to explain it, but those first couple of days after an event like that are about as frustrating as you can get. But I think for me, Brandon was a little bit more patient on the areas where I was getting on the specific areas. And when I was dropping right on top of them and on top of the boulders and on those rocks, and when they didn't bite, I shifted areas where Brandon milled around that area and made bigger sweeps, and then found isolated fish that had pushed off that from the pressure. And then I had figured them out on bigger bait. They were eating big perch. And so I was using a bigger drop shot and catching bigger fish through practice. But as the pressure got to them and as the people caught them, they get dialed into littler things. And Brandon had already caught them on a smaller bait that they hadn't seen before. And so when I would drop on them, it was like a 50-50 shot whether they would bite. And when he would drop on them, he would catch them. And that's just a monstrous difference. So pretty much it came down to those two things. Like, I was that close, like out of a lake that's 100 miles long and 100 feet deep and so wide, it's ridiculous. And then I'm in the area where every top 20 guy just about is, and I'm doing all the right things, and then I come 80th. I missed it by this much. So Yeah, super frustrating. You know, and the other thing is, like, it's a strange sport where I don't know any other sport where spectators or the general public play a big part in how the tournament goes. Like, how I don't know of any other one, and it's hard to explain. But over here, it's getting so competitive and so many people want to do it and so many people are bass fishing that we are getting out there, and there could be 100 other anglers on the boat, on the water, that have the same electronics, the same boats, motors, everything that we have, and they're out there fishing. And the only way I can explain it is if, like in golf, if two people laid up, Tiger Woods and someone else, and hit 6 foot from the green, and they're both walking up, a spectator can come in and just smoke someone's ball clean off the green 100 yards away and not the other person's. And then you've got to walk up and everyone's just like, oh, you got to deal with it. And then you've got to go and get your ball that's 100 yards away. Tiger gets to putt his in, and then you're hacking out of the thick. And that's the best way to explain it is, if we're fishing at the highest level, competing for 100 grand, and you can roll up and someone's just caught every single fish that you could have caught off that spot in 5 minutes. And it happens. The thing is, it happens to all of us, and it's happening to us more and more regularly. You've got to learn how to manage that and deal with it. And I had some situations where I was like shaking. I was so frustrated, but I understand it's their water, it's public water, but I'm like, I just feel like, man, give us a break for a second, would you? But they don't. It's a Thursday morning right now. People aren't working, so they're out there at daylight, and they're catching fish, and they're getting pictures, and they love it. And I'm glad that fishing is doing so well. It's just we are there for 4 days, and then we're gone for the rest of the year, and we're the only tournament series that we're trying to survive and live off. This is our living, and that one fish can cost you 10 grand, 100 grand, can cost your whole career. And so people don't get to see that, rarely get to see that. But if you talk to them, like Seth had guys go through that marina and they caught every one of them fish in the afternoon, like on day 3. So like, he's got a marina that has giants in it, and a couple guys roll in there and they catch 20 pounds out of it a couple times, and now he's cranking smallmouth off the deal. And Brandon and those good guys and Van Dam and they're the best at managing how to deal with those guys. And so instead of fighting it, which I have a little bit, I need to accept it and learn how to manage that, and know that, like, when I find that spot, someone else is probably going to find it, and anglers are going to find it. So what am I going to do after that? And what am I going to do when that guy comes in and blows it out and catches them all? So you have to sort of almost have a game plan set for when that does happen, and not let it frustrate you. And I have let it get to me because it's frustrating.
Well, mate, we don't have those troubles in Australia at the moment. A lot of people are still fishing, but in Queensland at the moment, for instance, the border's locked down again now, so all those pesky New Welshmen can stay down there. Don't know if you followed the event that we had on the weekend, but we had the last of our qualifying events for the year at Somerset. I know it was one of your favourite lakes, just down the hill from you at Toowoomba there. Yep. And the big bass for the weekend, 8.4 pounds Australian bass. That's a fish of a lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I always compare them to smallmouth, size-wise. And so an 8-pound smallmouth is literally a fish of a lifetime for anyone over here. And I don't know anyone, including Brandon and smallmouth freaks, that have caught an 8-pound smallmouth. So that fish to me is, no doubt a fish of a lifetime. Then to catch it in a tournament and to weigh it in, that doesn't get any better right there. And it's cool to see Somerset still producing and only getting better. And that's what I love about when I see these lakes that have more pressure, or the way the fishing is going, and the lakes continually get better. That's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and I'll give you an update on some of the techniques that worked well up there. Of course, people throwing spoons worked pretty well, but the day one leader, Sean Falkenhagen, was actually long lining a crankbait, which in Australia you have to do it you can't do it with your power motor. You have to long line with an electric and then stop at the other end and then crank it down. But he had 4 fish for about nearly 18 pound on the first day on crankbaits, long lining. So it's good to see that those techniques sort of trickle through down here, mate. One day someone's going to catch one on a drop shot on purpose. You never know.
Yeah. No, it's happening. You're seeing it. You're like, look at the jigs and the micro jigs, and then even the spoons, and that, you know, the swim bait for the Murray cod. You know, all of those things, they're transferring over finally, and it's just, for me, I just, one day I would love to just somehow transport my boat with all of my gear in it right now and just take it to Australia and be able to have like a year to be able to just try everything, you know. And the little times I get to go home and fish for a week or two, there's just not enough time to like put everything to the test in the right situations. But I see, like, when the weed and grass starts growing there, I see guys flipping and punching and stuff. It's just slightly altered, you know, but guys they're gonna figure it out, and it's cool to see Australia continually growing and adapting and seeing those techniques, you know. And it's happening over here. Like, it's definitely not how it used to be. It's just like every tournament, something new. I've been fishing for smallmouth, you know, for 10 years and gone up north. I learned more about smallmouth in this last 2 week stint than I ever have in my entire life, about fish in general. And you know, it just shows like you're never ever going to know it all. It's always a continual learning curve. And that's what happened at St. Lawrence River. I got such a good insight into what them smallmouth did with sun to wind to cloud, and just how fast those fish were adapting to each thing. And it even came down to whether they were looking down or looking up and wanted shadows, or they wanted to dig crayfish out of off the bottom. Like that, the darkness and the cloud and the sun all dictated how they would feed like that. And our bass and every fish we catch is identical to that. We know so little, and the more and more you fish for them, the more you start figuring that stuff out. It's that's what keeps you going in this game for so long. It's just because you never ever know it all.
I've got one more question for you. We've been following your progress this year, and you were sort of on track to get into the Bassmaster Classic. This last event at Champlain, tell us how it's hammered your AOY points and what you've got coming up, and what your plan is to try and make that classic for early next year.
Yeah, so, you know, got two of the best northern swings you could ask for. Two places that I've had top 12s, top 10s at. Almost won St. Lawrence River. I've made several top 12s on Champlain. So couldn't ask for a better. Roll up there. I found this is what's happening now. In the past, I would miss the boat on what was happening. I would find some sort of bite that's just not the deal, and I'm catching fish, but it's not like narrowed down. And what's happening where I'm at in my career now is I'm finding all the right stuff, and I'm in amongst them. I'm in amongst the guys that know the lake, that catch them, and I'm doing my own thing. Like, I'm finding my own areas, but I'm dialing it in, and I'm in the right areas. I'm doing it. And now I'm not making the right decision on where to go straight away, or on my rotation, or how I'm going to attack those areas. That's sort of where I've run into. Now I've got to continue to do what I'm doing, but make those better decisions. And what was like at St. Lawrence River, I found two areas. One was down the river as far as you could go, about 70 miles. But there was maybe there was hundreds of fish down there. They were in 3 feet of water, consistent current, and I could catch them. And it were easy. And it was a 20-plus pound day, you know, fairly easily. And I found them, and not many people were going to go down there. And I was like, this is going to be a top 10, a top 20. I'm going to catch them. I know it. Well, being who I am, I can't settle with that, and I need to look for something that is exceptional, that has potential to win the event. And so when I got a glassy day, I ran into Ontario and found this flat as far as you can go, ridiculous run. And I get out there on this big shallow flat, and there's hundreds of smallmouth up there, and they're in the crevices of all these cracks. And every time I pulled up to them, a group of 5 or 6 swam out onto the flat. I could lead them with a hair jig or a Ned, and they would swim over and bite it. And I caught 2, weighed them. That one's 410, one's a bit over 4, and then there's big ones swimming. So it's like a 21-pound day, and then I catch a couple fires. Now I'm at 22, 23, and then who knows where it goes from there. So it's like it's a ridiculous school of fish, the best school I've ever found, best area I've ever found. Well, the sun was out late afternoon. Those fish get up shallow when the sun comes out because they can see the bottom and they can dig around the rocks. Well, it's cloudy on day 1 of the tournament. The other fish were consistent because they're in current. They're going to stay up shallow. Then there's nowhere for those fish to go. I want to go for the big shot, and I make the huge run out to Ontario. There's not a single bass on that entire flat. Like, I'm talking 2 football fields of hundreds of smallmouth. There's not a living swimming fish on it. And I blow the first 2 hours trying to figure it out. And then talking to Corey and guys later, they're like, oh, yeah, they're not going to swim up there till after lunch when the sun started to come out and it heated up. And I'm like, man. And then I somehow salvaged it and caught 13 pounds. Day 2, run down to my shallow fish. There's giants swimming everywhere. And I'm sight casting 4.5, 5 pounders, and I'm like, this is the easiest top 10 I could have ever made in my life. I made a dumb decision on that day 1, and then Champlain found a huge group of fish, found another huge group of fish, and then had a bunch of spots around it. And now I'm like, but I had spots leading up to there where that was going to get pressure. So I was like, well, I'll pick off 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. Then I'll go and hit my juice and make it happen. Well, you roll to the first spot, locals on it, it's caught every fish. Second spot, locals on it, caught every fish, maybe another elite angler. Now I run to my juice, and 2 elite series boats are on it, and Brandon's got 18, 19 pounds. The other guy's catching them, and I can't get a bite. And now I'm like, why didn't I just run straight here where I knew it was going to happen? And I know better. It's just so weird how little things happen that make you make decisions. So I salvaged the first event, and it jumped me up into the top 40 AOY. And then this is how tough the tournaments are. I had 17.3. I was sitting in 36, which is solid. You get a 10 grand check. I need to just catch them the next day. Everything's good. I've jumped way up in points. I have 1 bad day, and everything goes bad, and I catch 10 pounds, and I drop to near dead last, and I drop over 20 points in AOY. So it's a very brutal sport that is super unforgiving, and you just can't have a bad day. Very frustrating. And so the good part is we've got 5 events left. They're all around. They're coming into a tougher time of the year, which tends to suit me for some reason. You know, I can catch 5 fish at 10 killer when no one can catch 5. I can catch 5 fish at Sabine River when no one can catch them, and you go to Champlain where everyone's smashing them, and then I don't catch 5 fish. It's weird. I don't know what it is, but that's the little thing that I got sorted out. When they're biting, I'd look into it too deeply or something. But now it's like summer. We're coming back in the south. We're going up to Sinclair first, which is going to be awesome. Had some great events up there. Spent a bunch of time up there, and I love it. So I got a good one to get some redemption on the smallmouth, which I'm looking forward to. So that's next week. And then we've got Gunnersville, which is an hour from our home here, which I've had some great events. We've got Chickamauga, which is 15 minutes away from home now. Santee Cooper is going to be an interesting one. Super tough, South Carolina. And then we've got Lake Fork in November. So coming into a back half of the season, something that we haven't done before a lot. And then, so it's going to open the field up a little bit. So pretty much now, like, I can't have another one of those bad events. It's got to be top 30, top 20, events from here on out. And then hopefully we can squeeze in some of them top 10s. And like you said, get some of that coverage on ESPN, because right now they're getting 2.5, 3 million views on ESPN watching live fishing. It's never been done before, and it's opening the eyes up to millions and millions of people that haven't watched it, and to see how it went down with Brandon and Seth and how the battles go. It's like any other sport, and when they can show that drama and show how close it is to guys changing their life with $100 grand and losing fish, And then those guys going out in Ontario into 6-foot waves and battling, you know, ocean-like stuff in a bass boat. All the cameramen are seasick. Like, it's pretty cool. And this is what I've dreamt about my whole life, and to get in this sort of situation. And then, you know, COVID has been terrible for so many people, but for fishing and the outdoor industry and for us, it has been good because it's put the bigger sports on the back burner a little bit and able to open up fishing to a whole new audience that have finally got to see it and see how cool it is and see what's involved. So we've got a lot more eyes on us now, which is great for everyone.
We really appreciate you taking the time to catch up with us and have a chat to all of your Aussie fans, mate. We really batted for you for the last half of the season. We love those tough events. We love it when everyone's struggling, including you, and you get those couple of bites and it all happens, mate. I just think it brings it all back. Let's not confuse Carl anymore with any fish fests. Let's make them all a grind, and we can watch you rocket up that leaderboard, mate. Thanks for joining us on Lockdown Live, mate.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. And I just want to say thank you to all my Australian fans and sponsors, supporters, just everyone. Like, I can't get back to everyone. Sometimes I do try to, but I read them all. And just everyone's messages in the mornings and at night when I get to see it, the support from Australia is growing. And having that is really, really cool. And I just want to say how much I appreciate it. So big back half of the season coming up. You know, I'm going after it harder than ever. And we're going to be in that classic in 2021.
That's what I wanted to hear. Cheers, mate.
See ya.